What we have to do is stop looking for leadership from the top, because the least among us make their way into those positions of power. You can see that now. Those guys are not fit to throw guts down to a bear, any of them. And so, what we have to do is knock off this fantasy of being citizens inside a democratic state. What we are the propagandized masses inside a fascist dictatorship. And what people have to do is begin to form affinity groups, get their own shit together, get their own goals defined, and then move out into it and do it. It's not going to come from, the policy council of the Republican or Democratic Party. That's just silly to think that. And we, even us in this room, the thing that was so great about the 60s and that is so frustrating about the 90s is people do not get pissed off. I can tell you this and you can nod in agreement, but, at some point the thing becomes so odious, so clearly intellectually bankrupt, so clearly toxic to any kind of human values that any of us can relate to, that you just have to put yourself on the line. And I don't know when that moment will come. It's not for me to say. I guess a switch will be turned in the unconscious. But there's enough evidence of outrage and muddle-headedness and outright evil around that sooner or later we're going to have to confront it. Otherwise, this is a sinking submarine. And there is no way out unless people who really understand the gravity of the situation and the stakes make their voices heard. If we leave it up to the institutions that have been put in place over the last 500 years, these are anti-human institutions. These institutions hate the human race, hate ordinary people. And until we wake up to this, we're going to be their victims. We're the marks. Well, how do you like being a mark? You can just take so much of that, and then you just finally have to stand up and say enough, Well, you're right. Education is the key. And, it's just my opinion on this, but history is, to not know your history is to be amnesic. If you met a person who couldn't tell you where they were from 1970 to 80, you would define them as a fairly damaged person. But how many people do you meet who can tell you where Western civilization was between 900 and 1600? People don't know. So since they don't know, they can be fed any shit that is out there, and they don't know. They have no idea. So the way to gain power is to reclaim a command of history. Well, it's not because we want to be obscurantists or we want to carry on conversations like Cambridge intellectuals. It's because we want to know what to do with the future. And the first thing you do with the future is you don't make the stupid mistakes that were made in the past. Like this New Age thing amazes me. There are people who call themselves spiritual thinkers who think that the spiritual quest began with Madame Blavatsky, for crying out loud. Well, I've got news for you. People have been over this ground again and again and again. It always amazes me that people will give their loyalty to a guru who is obviously, a grab tailor and a tax skate and a jerk. And you say to them, well, have you read Plato? Or have you studied Nagarjuna? Do you know what Moses Maimonides has to say about this? And say, why do you follow this guy? He probably hasn't even read these people. Do you know that there have been some fairly bright people around over the last 6,000 or 7,000 years? And yeah, they don't have a white limousine, or they won't invite you up to their place in the Hamptons or something, but they're good. And all you have to do is go to the public library and read this stuff. And people don't want that. They want flash. This very sincere people come to my workshops, and I realize that they want me to tell them this stuff. And because I guess this is better than sitting home on a Saturday afternoon and reading. But Plato said it a lot better than I'm saying it, and so did a lot of other people. Civilization is a vast storehouse of wisdom. But if you don't avail yourself of it, then you have to figure it out based on what's happened since Nixon or something. And you're not going to get very far. You know, they trap you with that. I don't want to rave about this, but what I saw happen to my own university, I think that a conscious decision was made by the American establishment at the close of the 1960s. And what they said to themselves was, this idea of universal education and an educated citizenry, this we don't like. We see now what happens when you educate your citizens. They figure out the game, and they come to you with their plans for reform and how to make it better. So I was like among, at least at the University of California, I was among the last people to go through that university where the goal was to inform you about the nature of the enterprise called Western civilization. And after that, what they got into was this MBA, data entry, all this stuff. The universities became trade schools. And what they give you is video games. You know, they give you TV, video games, and they give you a skill. And you say, well, now you're a level 3 data enterer, and we're gonna give you $35,000 a year, and please shut up about it. That's it. You've been brought inside, but we're not interested in your opinions. We're giving you a life. We're giving you a trade. And we'll be giving you some orders downstream, and by God, you better snap to when the moment comes. This has nothing to do with democracy. This is fascism, is what it is.
This campaign, just like what you said, and how much you can earn and how much you can learn. It's the same thing.
Everything is commoditized. Everything is. They assume that you and. You know, people these days want to be secure. I don't really understand that. It's great. You need a certain critical mass to give that up. It's great when you and all your friends agree that you don't care whether you starve or not because you're going to have so much fun doing it. But it's hard to reach that place by yourself because it's not very much fun. But, you know, it's... there is a problem in that we are manipulated and we are not empowered. And those who are empowered, it wouldn't be so bad if they had a plan. But their plan is, you know, another house, another Mercedes, a deeper swimming pool. This is no plan. And so it's up to the creativity of ordinary people. And the strongest weapon to support and augment the creativity of ordinary people is the psychedelic experience, because it allows you to put information together in new and exciting ways. And this is to be then the basis of a new political order. It has to be. And if we don't react, then... You know, the mushroom said to me once, it said, if you don't have a plan, you become part of somebody else's plan. Because there are only planners and plannees. So what do you want to do? You want to be part of somebody else's plan or get your own agenda together? Yeah.
How would you decide those experiences universally or any education?
Well, you stop lying about it for openers. I mean, I deal with this with my children, we live in an area where half the population grows dope, and once a month they have anti-drug day at school, and it's just the level of cultural schizophrenia is just awesome, So I just tell my kids the truth. And I say, here's what it is. There are good drugs and bad drugs, but mostly it's the monkey doing the drugs. And, inform yourself. Ask me. If you don't believe me, you know all these other people, shrinks, chemists. Avail yourself. And I'm very pleased with how my kids are turning out. I mean, other people may look upon them with horror. Because they don't take a lot of crap from anybody, but they are of good heart, and they trust themselves. Yeah.
I'm sure that they're taking drugs in group sessions, or if they're doing it while reading certain material.
Well, no, the thing to do with the drugs on that level is let's unshackle psychotherapy and stop having it be this playpen game and actually get it into play. Psychotherapists are an incipient shaman class. I mean, obviously they aren't all, but that's the place to start. People who want to help people who have a portion of a medical education, and people who are interested in the dynamics of the mind. If we all came up through a series of initiations where, you were exposed first to this and then to that and then led on, and always educated going in and always debriefed coming out, then these things there would be no problem. We're just so weird about human nature. I mean, drugs clearly are about human nature. And the model of human nature which this society has deified makes it a pathological act, a sin and a crime to alter your own consciousness. This doesn't make any sense. We are at war with ourselves, and we're losing. Well, because I think the word drug has been pretty thoroughly corrupted by the dominator. The way you corrupt a word is you define it so broadly that it means nothing. And, drug, we're talking about everything from DMT through heroin and on to penicillin and aspirin. These are all drugs. So that's why I try to say psychedelics and insist, that these are not drugs. There's something else. The other thing is, we always talk about the future and the past. But if you will analyze it for a moment, there are many pasts. I mean, very few of us were probably in the same place last night. But we're all here now. So that means that many pasts lead into this nexus of the present. And 3 weeks from now, very few of us will be together. I mean, some who came as couples, if they're lucky, will still be together. But so there are many futures and there are many pasts. And the thing to do is to realize that you're not being borne along on the current of some kind of inevitable thing where you're embedded in it like a raisin in bread. You're able to steer. You're able to steer away from things that are bringing you down, and you're able to make alliances and relationships with things which support you. It's all about personal empowerment. And personal empowerment means deconditioning yourself from the values and the programs of the society and putting your own values and programs in place. As long as you define yourself as a citizen, as long as you wait to be informed by NPR as to what the real nature of the world is, thing to shoot for is what I call extra-environmentalism. You know how people sometimes say, I feel like a person from outer space? That doesn't sound like such a bad way to feel. That means that you see what's going down. You see the game that's being run, and you don't buy in. You know, they can't buy you with a Mercedes or business trips to Paris or something like that. You're smarter than that. It's a kind of controlled alienation, you know, where you actually cultivate extra-environmentalism. The great thing about an extra-environmental is that you're at home everywhere. Every place is your home.